It's been reported that there was yet another Signal group chat in which Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared sensitive information about forthcoming attack plans. The chat included his wife, his brother, and his personal lawyer. He has obviously drawn criticism in the past for including his wife in sensitive material. And then, even weirder, this new op-ed in Politico came out by John Ulloyt. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Ullyot, the former chief Pentagon spokesman who resigned last week. And he wrote that the Pentagon is in, quote, total disarray under Hegseth's leadership. And then today, just before we came on, NPR reported that the White House has begun the process of looking for a new Secretary of Defense to replace Hegseth. But Caroline Leavitt made a statement on Fox News strongly saying that they're behind, Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And we want to play number 2, this clip.
And stand strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the president stands strongly behind him.
Okay, and then just really quick before we get back to everything, I do want to show you Pete Hegseth came out really like rocking and rolling, punching very hard at the Easter egg roll today.
Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies and on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
Okay, so what do you guys think is the truth? I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think there's probably a lot of disarray happening because there's a lot of changes happening. But I also think that he's probably not going anywhere because Caroline Leavitt seems pretty like stern on him leaving. And I also think even if he was like burning the Pentagon down literally from the inside out, Trump's going to be like, this is my guy. And he's not going anywhere. What do you think, Christine?
Well, I'm with the little blue blazer kid and the side eye that he's giving Hegseth. That's how I feel right now. I'm like, really? This is not the first time this happened. And although Leavitt's statement was very strong, and what Hegseth was doing was working the refs, namely Trump. He tried to pivot to sort of blame the deep state. The people who were fired for leaking are his guys. They're on his team. They have written about DEI in the military as a problem. So you can't pretend that it was the deep state when it's your own people who are probably maneuvering. This is MAGA on MAGA warfare. And I think the fact that he's the first time, shame on him, but the second time, shame on us. And I actually do think he's probably at much more risk of being relieved of his responsibilities there than not. And it's putting people at risk. You cannot do this. He already made this mistake. And there's no reason for his wife in particular and his brother and his personal lawyer, none of whom have security clearance, to have access to this kind of stuff. So it's a really amateur move. And Representative Don Bacon, a Republican, came out later this afternoon and said, I think he should go. And he's the first one to go on the record saying that, but I suspect he won't be the last. So I would say he's in jeopardy. But again, it's all up to Trump. And if Trump believes that this was some conspiracy, he might rally around Hegseth. But these are really stupid mistakes, and they shouldn't be made by our Secretary of Defense.
Well, I also think like you can't be mad at like leaking from someone like, I don't know, an Edward Snowden. If you yourself are, using insecure lines, using signals, you're supposed to be like literally the highest person in the government in our national defense. I don't understand this like temptation. Is like the group chat really that sexy? You need to be texting all this stuff. Can't you just have a dinner after work and tell them in person if it's this important to you? Like, I don't understand this signal chat shit. I just don't understand it. And
Well, and that's what I was about to ask you is it's like, we love Dorinda from Housewives and her thing
yes.
is like, say it, regret it, right? Or say it, forget it, write it, regret it, right? So it's
Yes.
like, is he consulting his brother and brother-in-law and wife? Like, should we bomb the Houthis in 10 minutes? Or is he just like, hey, heads up, we're bombing? Like, what is in their signal chat is what I want to know. Have they released that information? Because is he consulting them to get their matter of opinion? Because we sort of know his wife and she's not an idiot. Like, she's kind of a smart person. So it's like, is he getting her information, like, or whatever, her input on matters of national security? Or is he just like saying, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at work today? It's like, wait until you get home and have dinner with these people if you just must spill your guts on everything that's happening. Because I can see why, if these MAGA guys that he's been letting go and that's the source of these leaks or whatever, if they're like, yeah, he's doing some really reckless shit and that's why we have to tell somebody what an idiot this guy is.
Well, and he got away with making, a lot of people said, oh, it's a rookie mistake the first time, right?
Right.
You accidentally put this journalist hostile to the administration on this chat, et cetera, et cetera. But the second time is a genuine problem. That shows a pattern of behavior and
Habitual.
recklessness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I also just don't like because he barely got there by the skin of his teeth, like Pete Hegseth squeaked by and he had like by far the most, I think, or one of the most contentious hearings. People still have a lot of questions about him. Why aren't you walking the total straight and narrow if you like barely got there? I don't know. It's really disappointing. I also think that it's really cheap just to go on TV and say this is like a left-wing media manifestation and it's a, deep state. Like, honestly, give me a fucking break. You're part of the deep state now. Like, give me a break. You know what I mean? Like, if Secretary of Defense, you are the deep state. Like, what's the deal? Like, I don't understand this whole
It's lazy.
Yeah, but also
he benefited. Look, I think part of the reason he was able to get pulled across the finish line in his hearings is that he was mistreated and he was written about in the media in deeply unfair ways. And the fact that they were going after personal information related to his family and his previous marriages, all of that was just really dastardly, not surprising, but dastardly behavior on the part of the media. And the fact that he fought it is something Trump really admires. So he's trying to run the same playbook this time, but the problem isn't, and no one's attacking him unfairly. They're just revealing a very serious error. So what he should do is say, you know what? We're going to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. But he didn't even speak to the error. And that's, I think, poor judgment.
That's a big problem with this administration in general, is they will not ever admit to any wrongdoing or mistake. They don't make mistakes.
Really quick before we move on, can you guys do like a wager over under if you think he stays, think he doesn't, how long he lasts? I still think he stays like a while.
At least a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to get rid of him, they're going to wait a news cycle or two, and then he's going to be pushed out. But I'm not super. I would say he's more likely than not at this point.